Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
The thing that I know now is that I am different from my father.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
It's the Happy Families podcast with Dr. Justin Coulson and Kylie, mum to our 6 daughters. I'm the author of 6 books about raising a happy family. And Kylie, as we get ready for Father's Day and talk about what it is to be a dad and celebrate your dad and my dad and help others to think about their relationships with their dads and how they want to celebrate their Father's Day, we have wrangled your dad into a conversation. He was reluctant. His knees are knocking. He's nervous. And he's also locked himself in the car so that there can't be any distractions, no disruptions. Hey, Les, thanks for joining us on our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're probably thinking this isn't the way you want it to be celebrated for Father's Day, aren't you?
I definitely am.
The things that dads do for their kids, right?
You can say that again.
So, Dad, Justin and I were having a conversation the other day, and it occurred to me that I don't even think I've asked you ever. Were you actually in the delivery room when I was born?
Definitely.
Okay. What was that like for you?
For me, it was the most amazing experience that I would recommend it to every father, because it's a really beautiful experience, and I almost feel it's a spiritual experience as well as a physical experience. But to see that beautiful child come forth out of a mother's womb is just it's an awesome experience. It's something that you can't really describe or properly to help people understand, and the emotions that actually come from it is really quite high.
In the conversation that we had just before Mother's Day with Natasha, Kylie's mum, she talked about how you'd been married before and you had a daughter to that previous marriage, but then the two of you experienced just heartache when you lost your first child together a few hours after she was born. I'm getting a bit weepy even asking the question, but what did it mean to you to have this baby, this little Kylie that you could finally take home? Do you remember how that felt?
Oh, I do actually, because obviously the whole time of the pregnancy, the concern of whether this was going to happen again was quite high on the cards. Natasha was monitored quite regularly, and actually on all the pregnancies afterward as well. But to watch that birth and to make sure everything was there was such a blessing in our lives, you know. It brought me great joy to be able to have that experience, and obviously that joy goes after bubbies keep you awake quite late at night because they're unsettled and things like that. But that was such an awesome experience.
I'm wondering, Dad, as we think about, I guess, some of those challenges, extreme heartache for you in losing a child and obviously having a relationship breakdown and not being able to be in your first daughter's life as much as you would have wanted to be. Did those experiences of deep sorrow and heartache impact the way you actually parented me and therefore my sisters moving forward?
I would have to say yes. And I think also coming from the way my parents parented me, I think I wanted things to be a little bit different from my children. And, that was great. I think that was the hardest part of my first breakup was not being able to be around my daughter, my oldest daughter. That was really, really quite a really deep sorrow.
I came to the picture quite late, Les, and I guess we can probably talk about that shortly. But what I want to ask you about is your parents. So when I stepped into the family and married Kylie, what I saw was a mum and a dad to you, your parents, they were still alive, but they really experienced hardship. They'd been through the war and had been deeply affected. Your dad particularly had been deeply affected by his experiences in World War II. My sense was that they were fairly distant and maybe even a little bit harsh as parents, certainly emotionally, not exactly emotionally warm. Having been raised the way I perceive that you may have been, did that also play into the way that you raised your family?
I think it hit the nail on the head there. I didn't have a very good relationship with my dad as a younger person. I was frightened of my father. And not that he was ever abusive or ever hit me at all. Actually, Mum was a disciplinarian, but Dad just had such an aura about him that you knew if he lost control, he wouldn't be able to hold it back. So it was always, I felt as a child that we were walking on eggshells, you know. We were to be seen but not heard. We were the part of that generation. So for me, I didn't want my children to fear me. I wanted them to feel that they were loved and that they had somebody who would listen to their fears and their doubts, and that and I don't know whether I actually achieved that, but that was the way I wanted it to be. I wanted to have my children feel that they were wanted, because there were times in my life that I felt I sort of questioned whether I'd been adopted because I didn't feel that love in my own family.
Being your daughter, Dad, and knowing, I guess, some of those feelings intimately from a younger age, and experiencing, I guess, the distance of my grandparents as well towards me. One of the things that I have loved the most about our relationship as father and daughter is the feeling that no matter what, I was always loved, and that I always had a soft place to fall when life got tough. I remember multiple times, Mum and I are both probably very strong personalities and clashed a lot growing up, but I remember so many times locking myself in my bedroom and hearing a little tap at the door and you coming in and spending hours just listening and sometimes just sitting because I wouldn't talk. And they're some of my most fondest memories, because I just knew that no matter what I said or what I did, that you loved me.
Well, now you've gone and taken the question that I was going to ask, Kylie. Hey, after the break, we're going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to enter the picture. I'm going to take away the eldest daughter, and I'm going to find out how all that went, plus a couple of other really special questions to ask Les about raising Kylie and having a house full of daughters.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today I feel just a little bit like a little girl again, because we have my daddy, and he's always been my daddy.
I love this conversation. It's been really nice so far. Les, at some point I showed up, and that obviously changed things for your family significantly. Kylie has a question for you about me, and I'm not sure if I want her to ask it, but because we've gotten this far, I guess it's okay to ask the question. I just want you to be completely honest. I don't want you to rewrite history because things are okay now.
Hey, Dad, what were your first impressions of Justin?
Me, I thought very bright, very probably overconfident.
That's a really polite way of putting it.
No, I say that honestly because I'm not a confident person, whereas Justin came across as somebody who had a lot of knowledge, very confident, and very articulate in the way he spoke, which sort of blew me away quite a bit. You know, for somebody so young.
And so uneducated.
I don't know about uneducated. I think your education was better than mine. I have life skills, whereas I think your generation went a lot further in school than we did.
I'm curious. I remember one thing in particular that's really struck me. Two things. First of all, I asked Kylie to marry me over the phone at about 2:00 in the morning. And I remember Kylie walking into the bedroom and waking you up, and with me on the other end of the phone, explaining what had happened, and me having a quick chat with you about what I'd just done.
Yeah.
And I still remember you and Natasha were breathtakingly generous in your warmth and positivity around the fact that I'd only just met your daughter 3 months ago. We'd only been dating for 2 weeks, and now I'd proposed, and you were both happy about it at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, that shows you how much I was still asleep.
Yeah.
I think you have to go by your gut feelings. And, I look at that differently today. And I think this all goes back to how Kylie approached us as well. And I don't know whether this happened before or after that, where Kylie had said that she had some qualities that she wanted in a husband. And you ticked 99% of the boxes.
Yeah, I'm often reminded that the one thing I can't do is anything handy, and that was the one thing that was on the list.
And that should have been top of the list, I think.
With the amount of handyman work that you've done at our place over the years because of that, I can imagine that there's a good reason you're saying that.
Are you proud of who I've become, Dad?
Definitely. I think to see the way that you and Justin parent, I wish I'd have had that knowledge, and to be able to show that love and concern and patience with my own daughters. I think it would have made me a better parent.
What do you know now, Dad, that you wish you'd known back then?
Oh, that's actually a hard question. The thing that I know now is that I am different from my father. And even though there are sometimes I am like my father, I am different from him, whereas I was able to make changes and show love, actually. And I'm grateful. And some people probably would call me a weak person because I do that. But I would rather be a weak person than be somebody who's strong, who's not liked.
So, Liz, last question as we wrap things up. It's been such a really, really great opportunity to talk to you about these things. I'd love to know, what are your best moments as a dad? As you look back on I won't say how many years, but the decades of raising children, and you never stop being a dad, even once the kids move out and move on. What's the best thing about being a dad? Being a friend. It's very simple. Being a friend to my children. I don't think I'd be able to live without that knowledge that we have a good friendship and good relationship. I'm just grateful that for all of my daughters, they've taught me so many, many wonderful things about life, about being a parent. And there are many times that I failed, I'm sure. But through those failures, I was able to continue to learn from them. And that's probably been my greatest experience.
Even now, as a 40-plus-year-old woman, there are some times that the only thing that can make life feel better is a hug from your dad. And today, even though we're in different places, I feel like I've just had a really big hug from my dad. I love you, Dad, and I hope you have a wonderful Father's Day. I love you too, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts, and I wish my memory was better because I might be able to tell your listeners some funny stories, but I wouldn't want to embarrass you anyway. But I'm just grateful that you came into our lives, and especially my life. It's been such a wonderful journey, and I look forward to continuing that journey as we grow older. Thanks,
Love
Daddy.
you all.
Love you too.
Thank you, Les. We really appreciate the chat.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay, see ya.
See ya.
It's really hard to close a podcast out when it feels like you've been treading in sacred space. What a really, really, really kind and wonderful and generous conversation with your dad. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rowan from Bridge Media, and Craig Bruce is our executive producer. We hope that Father's Day is special for you. We recognise that not everybody gets to have this kind of a relationship with their dad. If that's you, we hope that you find some joy and some peace in knowing that you may be raising your own children, giving them a new opportunity to create those kinds of relationships. And if dads are not with us anymore or not available, or maybe even unfortunately not safe, we hope that there is somebody, some figure in your life or in your children's lives that you can reach out to and find that connection and that safety. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, we would encourage you to check out our Happy Families memberships. It's premium content, all designed to build the kind of connection that matters most in a family, because a happy family doesn't just happen. You can find the information at happyfamilies.com.au. Become a Happy Families member today.